Love that little voice.
I know. The first time that little voice came on to say recording in progress, I got quite afraid.
I think everyone did. It was like, where has that come from? I didn't know that's on there now.
They never notified us. Zoom, I have a love-hate relationship with Zoom. I love it because it allows me to record podcasts. It allows me to continue to teach my classes during the madness that we live in at the moment. But fucking screens, man.
Yeah, I know. It's when they change the rules without telling you, or that they've sent you an email but you haven't read it, or they update something and I go, what happened? Like, I've recorded it right and they've just updated it again.
Never read updates. Never read updates.
No.
So welcome to the I Am Jen Wilson, the Healing Rebel podcast. Today I have I'm actually going to put my blue light glasses on just to protect my eyes a little bit. Welcome Emma Thomas from Prem Yoga and Therapy. I am delighted to have you on. So we've known each other maybe 6, 7, 8 months. It was at the summer that we met in person for the first time, but I think we've been following each other on Instagram for quite a wee while before that, maybe a year or so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And I have been to you on part of my healing journey for massage and Reiki, which have been phenomenal, and I will be back for more Reiki because I do really enjoy it. And you have your yoga and therapy business, which let's just start with, why don't you introduce yourself and what it is that you do with your business?
Okay, so my name's Emma. I'm clearly not from Glasgow, but I moved up here. I moved up here in March after some time working in healthcare. But I think my journey and my business has developed around my own life, really. So when I was 17, I was kind of knocked back with some autoimmune issues that really frightened me, to be honest. At 17 was quite a big deal, and no one in my family had really suffered from anything like that. And it was really acute and a violent attack in my eye. So when you're 17 and you're wanting to go out looking amazing, putting drops in your eye hourly is not great. And also the doctors that I was dealing with at the time, I think maybe because I was young, or maybe that kind of shift in ages at the time, they weren't really very helpful. They were just like, oh, it's just something you need to take steroids for, it'll be fine, it'll either come back or it won't. There was no real reasoning for it, and that, even at 17, didn't really fit very nicely with me. And I was like, nah, this has got to change. So it wasn't until my 20s, when I was getting really regular acute attacks, that I really deeply looked into it and stopped being that kind of person that got ill every few months. So and it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy at all. But I slowly, my journey evolved a little bit. So in 1999, I did my Reiki training. I went into holistic therapy, Swedish massage, aromatherapy. In my own life, I started to look at diet and changes to my own life, like cutting back drinking and food. And I just became this kind of holistic warrior. But obviously, I think with the autoimmune journey, that's it. We tend to go on these big healing processes, and then it becomes quite difficult to sustain, especially when you're young. It's really hard. You're trying to fit into this perfect box, and it doesn't really exist. So that kind of continued for quite some time. I took on loads of different training courses. I worked with palliative care, and then I went to work into healthcare as well, specifically working with people in a rheumatology clinic. So I worked with people that were not strangely really like me, to be honest. When you look back, I was meant to be there. So I was counselling young girls like me that were diagnosed with lupus and all sorts of things, and it really helped me, I think, to understand my own processes a lot more. And that continued. And then I took some yoga training, my Kundalini yoga training, and that changed my entire life. It was just like the first few months I was there. Well, first 2 weekends, my teacher had a, sorry, the life you ordered is not in stock sign above her head. And I was like, yeah, okay. But yeah, so everything changed. But prior to that, I'd had quite a deep traumatic kind of, my father died, I was drinking too much, and then I got hit with Graves. So yeah, before I took that journey, I had to go through this process of adjusting my life. And so I became a bit of a Puritan, I suppose, about everything, food and whatever. And then I took my Kundalini journey, and Graves was still there. It was still within me. But sorry? So Graves' disease is an autoimmune disorder, and it's chronic hyperthyroidism. So you'll have heard of Hashimoto's or people with low thyroid. When you've got a hyperthyroid, your body is in overdrive. So I lost weight, I was shaking, I would be wiped out, I had lots of adrenaline, I'd get quite angry. In the real depths of it, I had a tic. I was, I'm working in healthcare in quite a highly stressful ward, with big responsibility, and being paranoid and worried about your own thoughts when you're on that ward. It was really difficult. And I took a month out, and I slowly came to terms with, my life had to change. I started writing, I was doing photography, I slowed everything down to be able to heal. And on that journey started a lot more going back to meditation and yoga, and that's when the Kundalini yoga started creeping into my life. I couldn't find a teacher near me. They're few and far between in Lincolnshire, so I did my training without really knowing.
So for anybody listening that doesn't know what Kundalini yoga is, can you explain it?
So all yogas are the same. They all have this basic awareness of, we have these parts of ourselves, these energies that are rooted in the lower parts of our spine, these energetic spaces, and right down in the root chakra. And the process of yoga is to work the body with breath and meditation and movement to bring this potential, this pure potential energy right up into our consciousness. And so that's what Kundalini is this potential energy. So we all have this life force, this seed of potential within us. But until we bring it up to our pure awareness, our consciousness, so it's like bringing the dark to the light, we're living in this physical world of not nothingness, but not our fullest life. That's how I see it anyway. That's how I would describe it. Kundalini yoga is it's really, when you look back, it's based on Tibetan yogic practices, so very much based on the lymph and the glandular system, working the body. The breath is very powerful. They use a lot of mantra as well, so it's a big mix of a lot of different practices. So I do chant quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's quite, I think Kundalini is one of the sort of lineages that's stayed closer to its roots than a lot of the other ones. A lot of the other ones have dropped a lot of the breath work, dropped a lot of the chanting, dropped a lot. I mean, I know when I teach to the people that I teach to, because I know them, we do breath work and we do, but I don't do chanting with them.
Yeah.
Because I know who they are. And to be honest, when I have done chanting with my teacher, I don't get it. And for me, when I'm teaching, I'm like, I want to teach something that I get, and I go, yes, I've experienced this, I understand the benefit of it, and this is how I teach it. So for me, I'm still the student in that chanting part of it, in the vocal part of it, and that's probably a part of my journey of finding my voice. And as I'm saying,
definitely, definitely. have just been like a light bulb going off. I think that was my revelation, was actually I didn't want to chant. It made me uncomfortable to be chanting stuff that I didn't really recognize. But if you think about where my issues were in my thyroid, my throat chakra, and you look at it, and really you know, but you don't know. And as I was moving through the body and working with mantra more and more, I found my voice, my inner voice, became a lot stronger. So when I spoke, instead of being this nervous, ticking little girl, I started to speak with a little bit more clarity. And there have been moments in my life when I've really struggled to speak. You know, working in quite a big healthcare environment is really hard when you're quite shy, you're wanting to do what you want to do, but actually your narrative doesn't fit their narrative. And I've been home and chanted for hours before, and really until I've cried and probably nearly vomited on a couple of occasions, because it's literally bringing that energy up and out, and it's really cleared it. And so alongside a lot of other things, food and medication and advice and guidance and healing on my own journey, I'm in remission. So I deeply know, and I was just writing about this morning, I deeply know that chanting mantra has been a big healing part of my thyroid, definitely.
And all of the yoga chanting is in Sanskrit, in original language. But I've had teachers who've said it doesn't really matter what it is you chant, and you can have a Christian passage or Buddhist or whatever, or just like an affirmation or the lyrics of a song that you really enjoy, because it's about the intention of creating this vibration in your body. That vibration in your body creates movement in your body, which is what is healing.
And it's what resonates, and that vibration is what resonates. I mean, I was teaching yesterday morning. I'm doing a 4 weekly meditation with some students online about restoring the power, and the meditation is important, and the hand movements and the eye focus. But I did say that yesterday, don't focus on chanting the mantra, feel it, see how it makes you feel. And there are certain mantras I know in the last 2 or 3 years, when I was really struggling working in the environment I was working in, they popped up into my head as I was going into work, and the one that I taught yesterday is really one that's powerful. It's for courage. And I found myself singing that as I was walking through to work. And there's I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Those things pop up into my head when I need them. And often it can be, say a Lord's Prayer or something like that, or I am, or whatever it may be. But I know that having that constant vibration inside starts to move something through the body. And I think, to me, that's what yoga is. It doesn't really matter the movement or what you can do or what you can't do. It's about, how do you feel? What does your body feel it needs next? And that's been the process for me, is knowing that this morning I needed a bit more rest or whatever, and yoga, that is yoga. That is, to me, it's that deep knowing, that deep understanding of yourself. It's not just getting on the mat, hitting that once a week and seeing how you feel. There's absolute benefits of that, but it's a way of life to me, I
think. And I think even without trying, like I started going to a yoga class regularly probably around 2012, 2013, because everything I did was high intensity, high energy, and I could just do something that grounded me, that let me rest, that off. And interestingly for me, when I look at my journey, I had stopped going to the regular yoga class as the symptoms of Crohn's started to present themselves, and I was like, oh my God, I've let that go. That's why it happened. Obviously, there's many other reasons why I have Crohn's, but I really recognised that was a benefit. So then when I started feeling well enough from that initial Crohn's flare, I then spoke to my yoga teacher and was like, I need to do my yoga teacher training, because I need this to be part of my life. I have realised because I let it go. And then when you bring it in.
It's been, I mean, yoga's been a massive part of my life forever, really, on and off, you know, like sweating in little village halls in the countryside and, you know, being outside on the grass and stuff. So I'm like classic. I've explored it in lots of different ways. And I've been a full yogi and then, you know, fallen off the wagon. But I think it was more physical for me then. It's definitely more an embodied and spiritual kind of way of living, really. And I suppose I've struggled in the past to accept that spiritual part of me, or it didn't fit right with the people that I lived with, or that it made them feel uncomfortable. So I've never embraced it. So now I'm kind of living that life. Actually, it is a journey and it's a process for me every day to kind of ask myself what's next. And it still feels a little bit, I'm kind of moving my shoulders now, it's still like an outfit that doesn't quite fit. But we're getting there.
Yeah. Layers and layers and layers of societal conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to peel back.
I think this is what I found, was that I needed, you know, people were trying to fix me. And it wasn't about fixing, it was peeling back what had hurt me, what had created this. Because we're not, you know, your body isn't really fighting itself. Why would it? It loves you, it wants to look after you, it wants to survive. So it's really about, you know, knowing what those things are that have poked little holes in you that you need to just have a look at and love again. Yeah, that's how I would describe it.
I was having a chat with Lilia from Heal Scotland the other day, and it's not a recorded podcast yet, but she is going to be on the podcast again. And we were talking about that everything always comes back to that forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it's not about forgiving other people, it's about forgiving yourself for beating yourself up for the way that you've responded to things throughout your life.
Exactly. Yeah, I think those experiences that we've had, I know this came up for me recently with some old family members, was, you know, what is going on here. And you have to look at, we each have our own experiences of life, and when things have gone wrong or we've had breakups or arguments, whatever, we each see that experience totally differently. So it's just about knowing that whatever the lesson was for you, yes, it was hurtful and harmful, but was that hurtful and harmful intentional from the other person? And generally it's not. And sometimes things can be forgiven, but never revisited. You know, you never have to go back there, but to forgive it on a level where it's deeply in you, I think is important on a healing journey.
Yeah, because I know I did a course with Gabor Mate. It was an online course, I think the start March 2020. And he said that there's no hierarchy when it comes to trauma. And I'm just reading Stephen Porges' book, The Pocket Guide to Polyvagal Theory, and he talks about that as well. He's like that everybody's experience that's unique to you. You can't compare what you've gone through versus what somebody else has gone through. And it's also important for people who are working with people who have experienced something, and recognising that whatever happened in that event, the event's not important, it's how your body's responded to it. Exactly. And your body's responded for survival. It's not, oh, look at that, I've had a panic attack, that's a bad thing. That's your body responding to that event to keep you safe in that moment. Yeah. It learns to repeat that process where it might not be appropriate at that time. So it's going, oh yeah, that's okay, this is a survival technique, and even acknowledging that takes that pressure off you. Yeah. And coming back to acknowledging that first event was a survival, and that's amazing, and you should celebrate that. Yeah. And that mindset flip, it's like I'm sitting reading my book going, wow.
Yeah, I know.
If keeps coming up, it must be true.
It's the remembrance, you know, those triggers, they're just the remembrance of something that happened to you, aren't they? And it's knowing that that's, you know, it doesn't have to be relived each time. It doesn't have to be, if we understand it a little bit better. And, you know, definitely working, I mean, I you know, even though with Braves it's gone, blood wise and, you know, medically wise, it's gone. It's still within me. I still, you know, if I have too many coffees, it's still there. That adrenaline is still within me. So I have to be really aware of where that trigger came from, and I'm really aware of when I'm not speaking.
Yeah.
Very much so. And that's hard, because I don't, you know, I like people to like me. Everyone does. So sometimes when you're saying things that are uncomfortable for people, and that's, you know, that's really hard. But it's about the shit sandwich, isn't it? It's about, you know, giving everybody the right to go, well, actually, I don't really agree with that, being nice either side of it. Yeah, and it's lifelong. I think we always feel like we reach a point in life and then we're done. Oh, we're done, we're cooked. This is me, ta-da. It's not like that. It's not like that. I've just finally figured that out at 47 next month.
43 next month, and I remember thinking that I was listening to Gabor Mate speaking on a podcast, and he's in his mid-70s now.
Yeah.
He's still on this journey, and I thought, oh fuck.
You're joking. When does it end?
I'm not on the wrong bus. I'm on the wrong journey. I don't have to do this, but I also don't. I don't want to be on that. I don't want to be on that bus where I'm still numbing myself.
No, exactly.
Using my body to not experience the
Yeah.
experience. It's like, okay, let's make friends with this. This is actually a gift, because I'm learning about me, and then what I learn I can then share with other people.
Yeah. And I think anyone that's in that process now, anyone that's teaching, I think has been through a level of that process themselves, or whatever the story is behind it. You know, I wouldn't say I chose this journey. It kind of chose me, but maybe I did. Who knows? But I mean, dropping at 17, I know at 17 to have those issues was awful, but I know from 14, probably earlier, I was having lots of these issues. I can remember getting massive pain in my gut before I started comprehensive school, and being told, get to the doctors, you know, what's the matter with it? It's indigestion. It was like, it wasn't. It really wasn't. It was like this total reaction of, this isn't right for me. And it never was, by the way. It never was. The same kind of thing, you know, really enormous back issues when I was 14 or 15. It carried on. I used to get loads of irritations in my skin. And the more someone tried to fix me, the worse it got. It just moved somewhere else. It literally poked me in the eye. It literally poked me in the eye. Yeah. When I didn't listen to the left eye, it poked me in the right one.
I've got the secret language of the body, and it talks about metaphysical. And it was I was having a therapy session with Julia Melville, one of the doctors in the Perth Centre, and she was like, "Have we ever looked at like the essence of what Crohn's is?" And so she had the copy of the book, she brought it out, and she started reading it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, that is me."
Yeah, definitely.
It was amazing. And then I bought the book, and I've like spoken to other people that I've got stuff on, and I'm looking up the book and I'm like reading it to them, and they're like, that is me.
Yeah. You start to see it in other people. I mean, Louise Hay was my thing, you know, heal your life. And when I looked at it, it was like and able to see the future with joy and love. And yeah, that was right. I was freaking out inside. I was scared to death, and all I saw around me was other people doing the same thing. And so I was just reacting as they reacted. And you know, it's still, my last flare was before I moved up here in November. So I was so stressed out. But I don't worry about it anymore. I can see the future with. I know what it is now. It's okay. With Graves, it was, voice. It was, you know, voice. But I mean, I can remember going back in and seeing someone in A&E about getting some medication, and he was like, "We got any other issues?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but I've had like irritated skin." And then he went, "You're a very inflammatory girl, aren't you, Emma?" I was like, "Yeah, all of this stuff inside me, just like trying to get out, and it was real anger, and it's, you know, it still resonates, that. So I do, even if I'm not yoga, I will still put some music on and really stomp it out. And I love the outdoors, you know, getting into swimming and stuff since I've moved here. It's been a huge game changer for me, that stillness in the body, and that, you know, being in the water just in that survival mode of feeling the cold and being scared to get in. You know, it's been a real journey from last March, and will probably be lifelong, I think, because I feel there's like a relationship within that nature now. There's that, you get in and you're freezing cold, but she, as I've decided to call her now, the water, is like, it really does, it really speaks to me. And as much as I've always been in nature and loved it, I've never had that kind of conversation with her before. So that's a real, like a shamanic kind of change in the stuff that I do, which I think is brilliant. I love it.
I think it was Teal Swan that I was listening to yesterday, and she said being in water is being as close to source as you can be, because it's like being in the room.
It is.
As being as close to source as you possibly can be while you're an alive being.
Yeah. And it's like the great mother, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you call the water she, that just makes sense to me.
It is. I mean, people are like, what? You know, people that swim, they're like, whatever. But actually, I wrote a blog about it just recently, and I posted it on some of the swimming groups, and they were like, wow, that really resonates. And it might not be their language, but it's definitely what they feel when they're in the water. And I think it's really important to share that, you know, and I've swam in groups and it's lovely, but I think my journey is to be there alone, or with a really small group of people that are just on their own journey. So yeah, that's definitely the way forward for me.
Yeah.
Hermit-like by a lot.
So I want to go back and touch on anger, because anger is something, particularly for women, that we are not allowed socially acceptably to express, and have probably from a very young age been given into trouble for being angry, been encouraged to suppress it and won't show it, because women who are angry, oh look at her, she's a psycho, look at her, she must be on her period. There's always a toxic comment around an expression of anger, and it's something that, again, I'm aware of, that I don't know how to express anger. As a small child, I would have epic tantrums, and I actually still remember one, because my mum, when I had tantrums, my mum used to just put me out in the hall. She's like, go and have your tantrum, I'm not listening to it. I remember feeling so committed to a tantrum once that it lasted way beyond. I was like, and I remember thinking, there's no point to this, she's not paying any attention to me, but I was doing it, and I'm like, I'm fuck this, man, I'm staying here. I was only about 2 or 3, and I'm like, I will make noise. But I didn't get the attention that I wanted. But now as an adult, I'm like, I don't know how to express anger, so I just bottle it. And that's something that's very much connected to this pressing down of anger into the gut. And my family, when I look at my family, they're not angry people. They don't get angry about stuff. So it's like, you've never had somebody to show you this is how you're angry, and then you it and then go on with it. It's like, oh, this is something I need to learn how to do. Is this something you have managed to?
I'm thinking about, I know what you mean. Thinking about family, mine was the exact opposite. Everyone expressed anger really a lot. Quite a lot.
Counterintuitive, because you see that and go, I don't want to be like that. Whereas I don't know how to be like that.
I know what you mean, and anger has been a real issue for me, and that rage that I felt when I had rage is still there. I still get that, and the world around me, I sometimes look around and think, oh God, oh God, oh God, how is this happening? I think with anger now, I don't know whether I have actually learned to process it. I do, when I feel it, I try to really stomp it out with music. I do a lot of breath of fire to kind of release it because it brings it up. When I'm really angry, I struggle to cry. So I try to kind of bring it up the best I can within my body. But I know what you mean. It's felt deeply in that area of your stomach where you just want to really rage it out. I do think I write a lot, and I also think once I've spoken those words out loud, then that really helps. But it's dependent on what kind of rage, what kind of anger that you've got, because it's the good girl syndrome, isn't it? It's the everyone. I mean, I've been like, you're mental, literally, like, you're mental. And then you go back and you think, yeah, I mean, I wrote about my Graves' disease once with my ex-husband, and to express so much rage at him and then feel this suicidal guilt afterwards. So I try not to put it on anybody else, but try to, if it is a rage about somebody else, write it out, speak it out, practice what you're going to say. But of course it still comes. I'm very lucky to have not many people in my life, but some really good people that know what I've been through, and they don't understand it, but they know, and they love me enough, thankfully, to take some of my shit. Bless them. There's still a lot of things that I don't say to people because there's just no point. So it's how do you embody that rage? And I think that's really important. Yeah. And love yourself enough to know it's okay to feel that. I think that's really important too.
Yeah, definitely. To feel it, acknowledge it. It's then learning, when do you say and react or respond to if it's somebody that's right in front of you, for you to be able to go, do you know what, you're a fucking dick, or
breathe, start,
whatever it is, learning a way. And I know I have tried to express anger in situations and got it wrong, but I also know that's okay because that's a learning process. I deal with it this way. Oh, actually, shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have done that. I've had to go back and apologise. Next time, I'll do it better. And because it's part of the journey, it's part of that learning process to give it a go. And especially when you're exploring and you realise this is something that you do, you go, okay, right, I don't want to be like that anymore. And when you don't have somebody to help, and even if you did have somebody to say, well, you could do it this way, do it that way, that's their way of doing it.
Yeah,
work for you.
Yeah.
So you might do it, and then you might just go, and you're fucking, you're an arsehole, blah, 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 and then you go away and journal about it, and then afterward, and then they maybe treat you the same way again because they don't know that they angered you. So it's then, okay, right, going and journal about it's fine to a point, but they also this person needs to learn a lesson as well, or whatever the situation is. It's like, error and give yourself permission to be wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, repression of any kind is never really good, but it's like you say, it's how you respond rather than react. And we've all got triggers, we've all got these things, and at the moment in this world, we are learning about people having totally different reactions and responses to a situation, and try and allow that to be, because that's how we learn. That's how we learn, is being able to say, that's okay for you, it's not okay for me.
Yeah.
And that, I understand why, but in this whole new way that we're starting to live in this Aquarian age, it's about that. It's about having all of that polarity, even within ourselves, and saying, that's okay. It's okay, because it is just what it is.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Yeah. And I think it's challenging as well, because we're trying to learn this in a digital age as well, where everything's written down in text. Yeah. Where you're maybe in a conversation like this, it's still difficult because there's a screen between you, so you're not feeling necessarily the person's energy the same way as you would if you were in the room from them. But if it's just words on Facebook or Twitter or whatever platform, and you read it and your interpretation, not how they've meant it, so everything gets blown out.
This person doesn't know you, you know, they don't know your background, you're just a face on a page, but they read what you portray out there. But that's what we all do. I've literally just been writing about this morning about, you know, how do we project out if we don't know ourselves? What are we projecting out to the world, and how can we make these decisions based on a falsehood, really? And we all do it, especially Facebook and whatever is, you know, the platform for it. It's all about looking good and not really saying anything deeply. But it's good. It can be used so well and for so much benefit. And I think we're getting there. I think we're understanding it a little bit more. But that's the process, isn't it? You've been given something that can create that. And now we've seen this breakdown of what it can cause. Now what can we do with it? Because it's here to stay. So now let's just shut it down. Let's just start a new, you know, platform. It doesn't work like that. We have to work with what is, and what is what's now and what's within us. And I think that's really important. I've heard a lot of people, friends of mine that I've listened to, I'm coming off social media, I hate it, and then spend the next week, you know, watching it constantly, because that's what it does. You know, if you shut something down in yourself, it's trying to make you learn, it's triggering something to make you learn. And that's been my lesson, is any part of you can't say no to. The good stuff and the shite stuff. You've got to be okay with it. You've got to be okay with it or not okay with it, and try to understand it.
Yeah, I think with social media is so, I'm going off on a complete tangent here, but the social media thing, I deleted my personal Facebook page about two years ago, because every time I went on it, I just felt angry. Somebody had read something that I wrote, and they've taken their interpretation and completely misunderstood or cherry picked something. Flushes of anger, and I was like, this is not healthy. So I deleted my personal account, kept my business page, and I've got a dummy personal account now that doesn't have any friends on it. So the only things that I now see are things that make me feel better, and I'm in groups where I'm like, yeah, these are my people. And it's not about creating this echo chamber, because there's still people with different opinions.
It'll give you more of what you're looking for. It'll always give you more. That's the algorithm, isn't it? You know, you like something that's shocking, and you like cat videos, it'll keep giving you cat videos.
For me, it's dog videos. That's what I do on Instagram, and I caught myself on Instagram one day going down a rabbit hole, getting read. I was like, oh, puppies. And I sat and watched puppies for about 20 minutes, and you just sit and throw at the screen. So now my search option when I go in is just all puppies.
I mean, when I first started on social media, I didn't have it. I was really late to the game. And then I wrote for Elephant Journal. I did an apprenticeship with Elephant Journal, and they were like, I want you to look at social media to be of benefit, and their writing to be of benefit. So it's always, the points are to bring up your own story, make it personal, relevant, but also help it be of benefit. So ask someone questions at the end of your article, ask someone questions, or bring up the beauty of life. And that's, what I tried to do, is try to, do a great shot, or to make people think, or whether anyone ever reads it, I don't know. But that's what I want to put out there. That's what you want to project. That, what are you thinking today? What are you thinking today? And I think it is changing. I think the people that I follow now are, but you always have a disagreement with people. You can always let go, can't you?
Absolutely. Follow on friends. Like you have, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people forget about social media, is you are in full control of what you see on that platform. If you don't like something, unfollow it, unfriend. It's no big deal.
It's a microcosm of life. That's all it is. It's just a little screen of life.
phone down, walk out the window. Because I'm reading Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about is like, what are you putting out? Because if you're putting out this negative energy, that's what you're getting back all the time. So putting out, how can you put a positive spin on this? How can you be
Yeah.
in a place with this? How can you create more abundance?
I love Wayne Dyer. I love him. And, you know, one of my favourite quotes from him is, you know, you change the way you look at things, things you look at change.
Yes, yes.
It's about seeing everything from that different perspective every time. I should have it tattooed on me somewhere, really. I love it. I love it so much.
For like even that in our healing journeys, we both, that's what we both do. Because if I only listened to certain people that are within the network of people I have to communicate with, oh well, this is just the way it is, oh negative, negative, negative. If I listened to them and believed them, that's where I would be. I'd be like, oh, this is terrible, I'm a disabled person and blah blah blah. But I am lucky that I've got the personality to just go, yeah, okay, whatever, I'm going to show you. I am that rebel. I have found people like yourself, like Lilia, who go, okay, that's one way of looking at it, but what if we spin it into this more positive way? What can we do to heal and support ourselves? What can we do to nurture and nourish ourselves? Might not get the disease, might still live in your body, but can you manage it in a better way?
Can you live a better life with it? What have you got to learn from it? Because that's what it's there for. It's not you know, I think this kind of, right, you're broken, if we can't fix you, then, you know, you're on that pile of, you know, I can remember my ex-husband doing it, like, oh, she's got great, you know, she keeps it. I'm just telling everybody, I'll tell them. I need to know. But it really, I think I used it to kind of manage, you know, if I was in a situation where I felt a bit overwhelmed, I'd say, oh, it's just me, I've just got this, you know. But I've tried to never have a disability, and that's not because there's anything wrong with it, but for me, if there's something wrong, if you like, or what people perceive as being wrong, then what's it got to teach me? What's it here to tell me? Because you know, more of the same, you know, I clearly haven't listened to my eyes, and now it's telling you. And the way I would describe being diagnosed with Graves is, afterwards, once I got my body back into an alignment, it was, if I don't change the way I am, I'm going to slowly die inside. And that was the biggest lesson for me, was, what are you not giving yourself that you're trying to give everybody else? And since reading the Gabor Mate book, that was like, oh yeah, I get it. You know, what are you trying to give everybody that you can't look at in your own life? And so actually my remission came during lockdown, which was really hard. I just split from my husband. I lived in this tiny little village, in this tiny little house. I was working where everyone else was off. It was a really difficult situation at work, and so I was coming home and there was no one there. Everyone I knew was living with somebody, pretty much. And that was incredibly hard. But it made me face my shit. It was like, it's like being a dog being shown its shit. It was like, okay, whatever you thought you were going to avoid, you're going to see it. So yeah, every time I tried to escape.
Yeah, and you have, like, you've turned it around, and you've been in remission for what, a year now?
Yeah, just over a year. So I'm still really aware. And I mean, I wasn't really taking any meds. I went on a really low dose meds for my own trust in my body again, because that was the issue that I had, is that I couldn't trust it. I had no energy. I had nothing left in me when I had those times, and I became really anxious. And it was like, is it Graves, or is it actually just me being anxious? So having that conversation for a little while was good for me. But yeah, no meds for probably about 2 years now. And it's good, it feels good, and I'm eating pretty normally. I'm fully aware of what triggers me. And my skin all flared up this weekend because I was so tired, and I'm like, yeah, you're not eating right, you're not getting enough skip, you're drinking too much coffee, chill.
Anytime we get unwell, whether it's a cold or whether it's a flare of an autoimmune condition, if you look back over the week or the fortnight before the symptoms arrive, you go,
yeah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah,
What was I doing?
If you're drinking alcohol, if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating very well, if you're stressed, like all these things, they might be okay in that moment, but gradually over time they accumulate and then present as a symptom.
It really is about that. It's really having that conversation with your own body and your own life. So, well, what? Okay, so I ate that. Why did I eat that? Why was I rushing? Was there something that I was trying to? Because sugar was my big treat after I gave up drinking. It was like, so why are you eating it? Why did you need to treat yourself? Was it a treat? Would you even better off having an apple? Would you, and obviously working in healthcare, bowel movements are like my biggest obsession. So it's like when anyone says I feel dodgy, I'm like, when did you last go to the toilet? So it's really, it's really like all of my family are like, oh my God, she's off again talking about it. But it's actually, that's the basis of everything. What are you shoveling in yourself? And that's everything: mind, body, spirit. What are you shoveling in yourself that's sticking in there, that's being held on to? And you look at that in a bodily function way, everything. I mean, really, you should be having 3 bowel movements a day. I know people that think it's normal to not have a bowel movement for 2 weeks. That's really, really, really hard for me to listen to, and for people not to say. And then you hear other people going, yeah, no, me too. I'm like,
Gillian McKeith, she was obsessed with people's poo, and she got kind of slated for it, but it is a huge indicator of how things are functioning in your body. So if you're really constipated, you're holding on to too much, not drinking enough water, not eating enough fibre.
Absolutely.
But diarrhea, there's the opposite.
It can create masses of issues. Massive.
Yeah, it's dirty.
Yeah, well, you don't talk about poo, do you? But I've always been okay with it, really. Poo, shite, whatever. It's fine. It's part of life, isn't it? It's just, and I think I never really see anyone as ill. You just see people coming in that are a little bit, when I worked in that environment, you see people coming in at their worst. You try to give them as much love as you can so that they can go out a little bit better and start to feel better. And I think that's probably my philosophy for life, really, is you've got to get to your worst moment sometimes to be the best person that you can be.
Yeah, I think that's for sure.
Yeah,
I'm just aware of your time, because we've done about an hour. Is there anything else that you want to chat about today?
I mean, the healing rebel, I like that kind of attitude anyway, that healing rebel. I really like it. And I think we all need to start looking at things differently. All of us, the system that we're working in at the moment isn't working, for a start. So it's time for a turnaround, and some will take a little bit longer than others. But I think as long as we've got some, way showers, leaders like yourself that really want to change the world, then it'll happen. It'll absolutely happen.
You've got to start where you are. Don't look at somebody else and be like, oh, I want to be like them because I've done that. Like, why are they not sick? Why am I sick?
Oh, yeah.
What's happening today? What's the one thing you can do to make yourself feel a wee bit better? And it might be lying on the couch watching something that makes you laugh. That's what you do. Or it might be going and getting a juicer and making yourself a juice, or
getting out for a walk, or doing whatever feels right.
Somebody, like, that's something that we've really lost in the last couple of years, has been allowed to hug people. I mean, I still do, but only with permission. Are you a hugger? Are you okay to hug? Let's hug.
People are so weird now. It's like I'm a big hugger, so it's really, I'm kind of coming up to people and they're like, "Whoa, okay, that's fine." I just forget.
But Yeah, like just simple things like that could be the start. Having a conversation with somebody that believes that you can be better, that you can feel better, that you can heal, that is a game changer. Just having people around you that believe that it can happen.
It's a vision, isn't it? It's a vision for the future of, I don't have to live like this anymore. I think that's what's coming out in a lot of my writing now, is doesn't matter what anyone else tells you, you don't have to accept that. You don't have to accept what other people tell you. Yeah, you go your own way, people will drop away, they'll get pissed off, but often they'll come back as well and see that, you know, I mean, I just recently I've posted something about, you know, moving up here and having that bravery, and a girl that I hadn't spoken to for ages, you know, had a conversation, I'm really sorry for what had happened. And it's funny, isn't it, how once you take your own path, it's hard. And you know, and that sense of losing people is really hard. And it's been really hard for me, incredibly hard. There's been really moments of being alone, but it's knowing in my gut that it has to be this way for me to understand myself that little bit more. And if I don't, then I'm just going to repeat those same patterns over and over again.
Yeah, it can definitely feel lonely.
Yes.
You can definitely feel lonely at times, and know that that's okay. It's difficult, but it's okay. And then just being able to then reach out and say, hi.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
Stuff. I mean, you message me and we're like, hi, we followed each other, do you want to meet up for a coffee? And we did.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it encourages you to seek those people out that you wouldn't normally, because of, you know, you don't want to look weird, or, you know, I think, well past that anyway. So, I mean, well past looking weird. I think everyone's sort of weird since I was about 10. But yeah, I'm happy in my weirdness. But yeah, it is reaching out to the right people. I think that's, you know, and you know, at the moment, with the people that you're finding in your life that can really support you with their skills, but also they want to help you because they love you, and they might have probably had similar journeys as well. That's normally the classic case.
Yeah, definitely. Where's the best place for people to find out more about what you do, your workshops, classes, etc.?
Yeah, so online, Instagram is my main home, I would have said, and I'm starting a weekly journal now. So I've always written a newsletter since I moved up here, but I'm making it a little bit more. My writing is definitely coming through a lot more, and that's a real expression for me, and it always has been as a child. So sign up and get a newsletter or journal. You'll get a free kind of musings for the week. But yeah, so that's on my website. You can sign up there. All of my links are on my bio on my Instagram or my Facebook page, Prem Yoga Therapy. So yeah,
I'll put all the links.
Yeah.
I'll put all the links to them in the show notes so that people can just go to the show notes and then be able to click so that they can find you. And if you got any, like, this is going to go out, what month are we in?
January
2020. So this will go out in a week, or not, in about 2 weeks, so towards the end of January 2020. Do you have any workshops or anything coming up that
so I will have monthly workshops, and they're all based on a course that I developed, a program that I developed around autoimmunity too. So if there's things that are in your body or whatever that you're struggling with, but you don't want to commit fully to the program, then keep an eye out. I'm going to do some monthly workshops to teach a little bit more about my process, which was, you know, reduce stress, improve sleep, start clearing out the clutter a little bit so that we can start to move forward a little bit better. And that will be at Westbourne Clinic in West End of Glasgow. And then I will be having monthly, possible bi-monthly workshops at Sankalpa Yoga Studio near Rutherglen. So yeah, that's where I'll be doing it. And online too, I'm doing a lot more online, some morning meditations. I've got a 5 weeks to freedom course, which is very similar if you're feeling like you're struggling a little bit, or just feeling a little bit lost, or you're heading towards that autoimmune journey and you feel like you want to have a bit of a reset, then that's perfect too. and I'm taking time. So yeah, brilliant.
Amazing. So I'll put all those links in the show notes.
Lovely.
I will end the podcast now, and then we'll have a wee quick chat before you go. So thank you so much for your time this morning.
You.
Thank you for sharing your story and your wisdom and our little
Lovely, Jen.
tangent chats. Love them.